This ship had 306 people on board, and then it vanished into thin air. This is the incredible story of the USS Cyclops, a U.S. Navy ship that disappeared without a trace in 1918, the year before. The ship had been launched amidst great fanfare. It was the largest collier ever built at the time, collier being a coal-burning ship. The idea was that it would be used to transport coal from the U.S. to Europe to help power the war effort in World War I at 427 feet long. The Cyclops could carry nearly 10,000 tons of coal. That's about half the size of an aircraft carrier. At noon on March 4, 1918, the Cyclops departed Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. It was sailing to Salvador, Brazil, where it would pick up more coal to bring back to the United States. The ship was last sighted on March. It was spotted by a Portuguese ship 200 miles off the coast of Brazil. But there was no sign of the Cyclops when the ship reached Salvador. By the next day, the Cyclops should have arrived in the port of Baltimore, but it didn't show up. There were a few coal ships in port, but they had all arrived earlier. The Cyclops was 2 days late. On March, a search was organized. It consisted of 4 destroyers, 3 of them armed with guns. That's because everyone assumed the worst. They thought the Cyclops had been attacked and sunk by German U-boats or enemy planes. But after scouring the seas for 500 miles around the spot where the Cyclops disappeared, no wreckage was found. And to this day, none of the ship's 306 crew members were ever seen again. It remains one of the largest non-combat losses in the history of the U.S. Navy. The Cyclops was bigger than the Titanic and Lusitania, both of which sank after being hit by torpedoes. But the torpedoes that sank those ships also caused massive explosions that could be heard by people on land. There was no explosion on the Cyclops, just silence. No wreckage, no lifeboats, nothing. That's why the case of the Cyclops is so strange and why it has remained a mystery for over 100 years. To this day, there are more questions than answers surrounding the disappearance of the Cyclops. What we do know is that the ship was carrying a full load of coal. If it had sprung a leak and started to sink, the weight of the coal would have made it almost impossible for the ship to stay afloat. And that leads us to believe that the Cyclops didn't sink. But if it didn't sink, where could it be? In 1911, a British ship called the Orotapa disappeared nearby. Its captain had reported strange magnetic disturbances and compass problems in the area before his ship vanished. Some believe the Cyclops encountered the same problem and got lost in a magnetic anomaly. But there is no evidence to support this theory. Some believe the Cyclops was actually lost in the Bermuda Triangle. Even though it disappeared 100 miles outside the boundaries of the mysterious triangle, could this have been the first Bermuda Triangle mystery? Well, the U.S. Navy doesn't think so. When the Cyclops was 2 days overdue, the Navy began searching the waters near the Bahamas, which is inside the Bermuda Triangle. The Navy was already suspicious that something wasn't right. You see, the Cyclops was supposed to drop anchor and wait for a tugboat to help it unload its cargo when it reached port. But the ship had been seen leaving port by lookout men stationed high above the city, on buildings and on hills. To this day, nobody knows what happened to the Cyclops. But there is evidence that points to foul play. The ship's captain was rumored to have gambled away his entire salary, and possibly the ship's petty cash as well. He'd lost so much money he'd borrowed heavily from his fellow officers. Could the captain have gotten the ship into serious trouble through his gambling, and then intentionally wrecked the ship to avoid the repercussions? Or was there perhaps mutiny on board the ship? Perhaps some of the crew wanted to seize the ship and sail her to Europe where they could steal the valuable cargo of coal. We may never know, but here's what we do know. The ship sent out no distress calls. Had it sprung a leak or come under attack, the crew would have been expected to send out flares and rockets to alert passing ships. But the only light showed that night came from the ship's illuminated sign, which read, "Beware of collisions." What do you think happened to the USS Cyclops? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. And remember to subscribe for more stories of mystery and intrigue.